I want to tell you a story about my grandfather. Why my grandfather? Because he lived through a very difficult time, through the demise of the Ottoman Empire, through the rise of modern Turkey. He was born in 1876 and died in 1936. And he gave me my name. And in my culture, giving a name to somebody means something. It's like your life may be shaped by that name. So I felt like I needed to know this person. And he was this multifaceted character who was a poet, a journalist, a writer, a medical doctor, what else? A high-level bureaucrat, all of these things. And he lived through these very tumultuous times, difficult times of the 19th century, end of the 19th, and the rise of modern Turkey, and to the middle of 20th century. So, and he was asking me to come on a journey with him. He was beckoning to me. I went to some family pictures and dug up one that I really liked. And here is the family, this Ottoman family, posing in front of this dreamy painting in Istanbul, then Constantinople, in 1919. Istanbul is under siege by Western powers, and this family may no longer be called Ottoman in a few years. They might be called Turkish instead of Ottoman. I look closer to them, and I look at my grandfather. My grandfather looks stern, the pater familias, looking like he's going to do anything to protect the family. But look at the young boy next to him, and he's my father. He looks kind of lost. He looks a little bit confused. And look at the beautiful woman. She's my grandmother. And my grandmother has this ephemeral quality about her, a beauty, and a little sadness in her eyes. I look closer. I look down at their feet. What do I see? I see in Arabic script they've signed their names. But the thing is, I cannot read it because Turkey switched from the Arabic alphabet to the Latin alphabet in 1927. I can't read the script, and I have sadness too in my eyes right now. I feel like I'm estranged from my own family. Let me go back to where Rıfat, my grandfather, came from originally. Here is the star that you see. It's a town called Kilis where he was born. And this is the Ottoman Empire's map at its zenith. I'm looking at him now and imagining him as a madrasa student and a student of Islamic studies, a student who's memorized the entire Quran, who spoke Persian, who spoke Arabic, and who studied with the renowned sheikhs of his time. But he's ambitious, and he's smart, and he wants to leave. He wants to go to the center of the world, and he wants to become a medical doctor. And he goes to the center of the world, which is Constantinople. Constantinople in the 1890s. He arrives in Constantinople in his turban and cloak and goes to this westernized military medical academy in the city. When he meets his classmates, they ridicule him. They say, "What's this outfit?" He must immediately change it. And it's not just that, but he finds that his professors are speaking to him in French. And they're talking about the human anatomy, and in the same breath, they're talking about Voltaire, about Rousseau, about the ideals of the French Revolution. Liberty, equality, fraternity. That's what they're talking about. Why French? Why these things that are so, why obsessed with things that are Western? Because the world is changing. And Rıfat must change his identity. Not just him, but the entire Ottoman Empire is changing. And here's a map of the Ottoman Empire when he was living at his time. At the beginning of the Ottoman Empire, everyone was known by their religion. So there was Christians, Muslims, Jews. Muslims were at the top, Christians and Jews also had rights, and they could rule themselves. But what happened is, when Westernization came in, and the force of nationalism, the Christian subjects seceded, and they created new states: Macedonia, Serbia, Greece, Montenegro, Romania. So the Ottoman Empire was shrinking. They had to hold it together with another identity. What would that identity be? This time it was Muslim. So Muslimness was the trend, but lo and behold, there were Arabs who did not want to be part of the Ottoman Empire, even though they were Muslim. So that didn't work either. So the next thing was Turk. Let's use the identity of Turk. And the Young Turk movement came into being. And guess what? My grandfather was this proud young Turk. Here he is at age 27 in 1903, joined the Young Turk Revolution, Young Turk movement. But there was a small problem, and the problem was this. There were myriads of ethnicities in the Ottoman Empire. Assyrians, Armenians, Kurds, Arabs, Jews. So all of them were going to be called Turks now? Not for a while longer. Not until Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who was also a young Turk himself, fought a war against the West and set up a nation-state called Turkey from the remnants of the Ottoman Empire. Now, my grandfather's family had to comply. Let me show you another picture of my family, grandfather's family, in 1930s. Look at them now. My grandmother, she's not covered. She has short hair. She has an open neck dress. And look at my uncle with a bow tie and very fashionable glasses. Look at my grandfather. No more this Ottoman mustache. Instead, a very modern, shorter mustache. So this family now have become Turkish, they've become modern, they've become Western, because that's what Atatürk said, that Turkey was going to be a nation of Turks. Modern, read Western. So this family complied. But had they really changed their identity? It was so easy when I was at grade school. When I was at grade school, and here I am in the circle, and I was in second grade, and I recited this Pledge of Allegiance with great enthusiasm and loudly. And it went something like this. I am Turkish, and I am proud, and I love my nation more than my own essence. My ideal is progress. Oh, great Atatürk. How happy are those who say they're Turkish. I said this with great enthusiasm and believing in it completely. But things changed after I grew up a little bit, and my parents sent me to an American school. And this American school was called Robert College, set up by American missionaries in Istanbul. I started learning English. My grandfather had to learn French. I had to learn English. I was taking all my classes, most of them in English. I was learning Western ways, Western culture. And I graduated in 1971. And here I graduated from Robert College now. When I graduated, my mother said, why don't you go to a secretarial school? And a couple years later, you might find a suitable husband. And it's going to be a good idea if you marry a diplomat, and preferably someone who's, on the way to ambassadorship. But I was not interested in any of that. I was already entranced in a totally different lifestyle. I was interested in a lifestyle of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, maybe not drugs so much, but all the rest. I spent all my time at discos. I was living a life of lies. I was living a life that was a double life, one for my mother and one with my friends. And it got to be almost impossible. And I started saying, I got to get out of here. I have to go. I have to go to the West. Why? I want to see the real thing. I mean, I've gone to an American school. Now I want to go to the West, to America. So I did. I went to the West. I fell in love with an American, And I married him. And I thought, I've got it made now. You know, I fit in. I fit in very well. But lo and behold, being from a developing country and from Turkey, what happened is every time I opened my mouth, somebody would say, "Oh, what a cute accent. Where is that from?" Turkey. Where is Turkey? In India? Near India? Is there terrorism there? Do they speak Arabic there? Every time I opened my mouth, I got this response. I started feeling more and more inferior. I wanted to hide my identity and tell no one. And on top of it, nobody could pronounce my name either. So I said to myself, why am I trying so hard to become Western? Why are we copying the West? Why have we given up our own civilization, our own values, our own dress, calendar, script, everything? Is everything related to Western civilization better and our civilization inferior? And why are we being asked to feel pride in being a Turk? This whole desire to become the other, become Western, in my view, lies at the crux of the identity crisis in Turkey. And I started feeling I wanted to fit in. This is not working out. I felt like I was losing my own identity. I was losing myself. I was becoming a stranger to myself. It started feeling kind of hopeless. And after years, 6 years ago, I heard my grandfather's calling. And I went back to my family to look at who really they were. And when I looked, I saw repressed identities that were hidden from me in the family. This old gentleman, who is my grandmother's father, turned out to be Greek. And he comes from a line of Byzantine governors who then converted to Islam. This lady next to him, my grandmother's mother, turned out to be Kurdish. And she comes from a line of a Kurdish leader, very revered Kurdish leader, called Mir Bedirhan. This young woman, we adopted her. The family adopted her, and she was born in 1910 in Erzincan, in eastern Turkey, where a lot of Armenians were sent on a death march, and they left their babies and little kids with Turkish families and hoped they would come and pick them up. And my family may have adopted one of these girls. And we may never know the truth. You see now that I'm looking at Kurds, Armenians, Greeks with a different eye, don't you? It's like I belong to all of them at once. When I think about this, I'm thinking to myself, why have we decided that, why have we kept our identities in such a way that they're fixed, that they are essentialized, and why couldn't I be all my identities at once, and why did I have to make a choice between one or the other? This is what I started to try to question myself, was questioning myself. And there are many individuals in Turkey who are questioning their identities and finding secrets in their closets. And there are films being made, there are being memoirs and histories and oral histories that show that diverse identities are being discovered. But there's a problem. The problem is there's a backlash, because some people think that the more these identities are discovered, there'll be separatism and there'll be a breakup of Turkey. That's the fear. And the fear is also based on this long memory of the nation. The Ottoman Empire was broken up by the West, and the West is trying to now continue and end the process. So Turkey is in danger of being broken up too. So this fear creates a situation where the other becomes the enemy. And what we do is we put our heart in a cage and we put others in a cage as well. And I started thinking, but wait, there must be another way of thinking of identities. And there are two metaphors for identities that I know of. One is mosaic with distinct identities, and the other one is a melting pot of one, going into one identity, everybody. But neither of them made sense to me. And I started thinking, identities are fluid, that identities are actually, they merge into each other. They may be like watercolor. And there is an art in Turkey, it's called Ebru. And Ebru is such that an artist creates the artwork on water and then transfers this floating artwork onto paper. So, to me, a water-based art is a perfect symbol and a metaphor for fluidity, for impermanence, for change, for connectedness, and for contingency. I'm now thinking I'm so much more at peace with myself because the more I recognize my diverse identities, the more I also realize that there is a locus of identity that's even deeper that holds them all together, like a universal form of consciousness. But yet, these stories must be told. Each of these stories, the more stories that I tell, the more true to myself that I feel I am. So these stories are also just stories, no more, no less. That has to be recognized as well. I'm now thinking, I'm thanking my grandfather, Dr. Kilisli Rufat, for bringing me on this journey. He didn't just bring me on this journey, but he asked me to explore the nature of identity itself. And now I'm looking at my own family, and I'm looking at my children, and I'm wondering, what kinds of stories are they going to tell? What kinds of watercolor identities are they going to create? And I'm looking at you, and I'm wondering whether you are already contemplating some watercolor identities of your own. Thank you. Thank you.